Hey guys, so today, now that I've finished my installation of the tail vise, today I'm going to be installing the Veritas quick release face vise or front vise. This is the vise that, for me anyways, is my most common work spot on my workbench. I did the bench out of the white pine, but for the front jaw of the face vise, I'm going to be using this beech that I've got as an extra that's been kicking around the shop. I think that this is going to be nice and strong, dense hardwood for having well-supported dog holes. And I don't think that there's going to be any issue with using different types of wood between my jaws and the bench. I think that it's going to be useful for me to have something that's a little bit more durable on the jaw anyways.
So hopping right in here, the first thing that I need to do that's specific to my project is create a rear jaw for this vise. The standard Veritas instruction manual that comes with this vise is set up for a bench that's designed with a 2-inch apron, and I've designed my bench to not have any apron. And so that means that I need to create something for that front jaw to work against. And obviously that needs to be something quite sturdy. So I'm using another piece of the beech to expand essentially this area that will be directly behind that front jaw. So what I'm doing here is just countersinking some holes for the bolts that will hold it to the underside of the bench. Because I'm right-handed, I'm laying it out that this face vise will be on the left side of my bench. Just standard right-hand workers have a left end of their bench for their face vise, vice versa. If you're a lefty, if you're feeling particularly contrary, feel free to set things up differently, but that's kind of the standard just because of the direction in which you would be using a hand plane and other tools. So I'm building this bench at a moment where I am setting up my workshop, so I don't actually have a drill press at this moment in time. Best practice obviously would be to use a drill press to do all of the holes that you'll see me driving in this project, but it's also easy to get kind of hung up on wanting to do things so perfectly that you never actually do anything at all. And so in the absence of the perfect tool, in my opinion, use the next best thing and do your best to make it as close to perfect as possible. So after this, I'm going to switch out for a bit that is just the dimension of the bolts that doesn't accommodate for the heads, and finish driving that all the way through. So next I've flipped my bench over. You're looking at the underside of the bench, and I've got my first bolt lined up before I put the rest of the glued surface together, and I'm just kind of cranking all these guys down, more or less, trying to cover them all at the same time so they all come on equally. So next up is layout, which isn't necessarily the most exciting part of a video, but I think it's worth, at least in fast forward here, giving credit to the amount of time that we spend marking things out carefully, figuring out exactly where things are meant to go. There's this template which I was using that comes with the Veritas vise, and you can also get the measurements from the manual. So then once I've got everything laid out, then I'm doing my homemade woman-powered drill press, which is a good old clamp on the edge of a bench, and doing my best to line things up fairly straight. And then I think I go back and continue referencing my my manual here. So I want to make sure that I'm getting all of the measurements exactly where they're actually supposed to be. And after a few moments of humming and hawing, then we'll get back to it and get the appropriate sized hole set up here for the main screw, which is the really largest piece of equipment in the vise. And voila, we have 2 holes for the guide rods and 1 for the quick release shaft and a large one for the main screw. And so then I'm clamping this onto the face. Remember that you want to keep that front jaw just slightly proud of the top of the workbench, so that once everything's been set up and put together, that you'll be able to just plane it down to be the perfect dimension. Trying to line it up perfectly, you're setting yourself up for irritation, and it's totally unnecessary when you can just give yourself that little 16th, and you're going to have lots of room to just bring it back down flush. So once it's in place here, I'm using these holes that I've done with the template up against that rear jaw to carry the holes all the way through. So something that is you can't quite see in this part of the video, but in fact happened, is that I broke off one of the drill bits in the large hole that's intended for the main screw. So we'll have to solve that problem next. So it's kind of hard to tell, but I broke off the drill bit for my hole saw in here. So I'm gonna have to find a way to fish that out. So having broken off the bit that was the correct size for this hole, I then had to get that chunk of wood out of the space along with the broken bit piece. So I drilled around it with a much smaller, just standard wood drill bit. And rather than doing a trip to the hardware store to replace the piece that fits correctly, I decided to just finish it out with my my chisels. So here's a speeded up version of a little bit of handwork to finish cleaning out this hole. Like I said, there's kind of the optimal way you want to be doing things, and then there's kind of like, let's just find a way to proceed with this project. So here is me just making the next thing happen. So the next thing is that we need to disassemble the vise, which means here you see me taping off the release mechanism for the quick release, just so that that doesn't come apart once everything is detached. And then I'm just taking off all of the springs, all of the nuts and washers and various bits that are holding the face together, so that I can have the main screw and the quick release bar and the bars, the guide rails on either side free, so that I can put them through the face. So next up, we're going back to that second piece of template that comes with the vise. Also, once again, you can just do this by measurement, but the templates are really nice that they come along with the package. This is just material that you get it placed really well, and then you can cut directly through the template to get really accurate markings for doing the pilot holes, for the bushings and the bolts that are going to attach the vise to the underside of the table. So I've measured out and put the blue tape on the drill bit there so that I don't drill too deep and go through the surface of the table. It's just a little useful trick if you don't know that one already. I'm using a piece of wood to be an interim sacrificial piece of material here, putting the bushings in, and then attaching the bolts. And try not to drive everybody all the way home in one go. Try and go around the circle, kind of the way you would with a tire. So now we're getting to attach the face of the vise to the face jaw. It looks a little bit funny the way that I did it. I realized during a fair bit of messing around here that I had the quick release mechanism set a little bit in advance. And so I needed to actually reattach all of the hardware with it sort of standing away from the face. So that's why you're seeing that gap between the face of the vise itself and that front jaw. But there the blue tape goes, means that I can manually release that quick release bit. There, she's figured it out. And that's what's going to allow me to slide it back to be true with the face of the wood. There you go. And then I use the faceplate of the vise as my guide for pilot drilling the screws that hold it onto that jaw. And just for posterity, I'll throw in the quick little video of turning this sucker over. Now with the vices installed, it's actually getting quite heavy, this bench top. So here we are, back up, right? And we're kind of coming in towards the finish line here finally. We're just sticking the handle onto the vise. And this is pretty easy and self-explanatory. I don't think you need much explanation, but it is rolling pretty smoothly. Quick release, working just fine. And I'm, by this point, feeling pretty chuffy because this is a very long process. So the last thing to do, get a little paraffin on your hand plane and clean up that final surface so that you've got a nice level plane between the top of your vise and the top of your bench. And Bob is your badger. That's pretty much the size of it. So let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comment section down below, and come back around for the next video. The next thing that's coming up will be the joinery for the legs. So a million thanks to my patrons from Patreon who will be listed at the end here, and come back and see what comes next. Bye.